because what we're doing today is sensory acuity. Does anyone here already have an idea of what sensory acuity is? Okay, so the first sentence on the worksheet does a pretty good job. If you guys, does anybody want to read that? If not, I can, it's no problem. Go ahead.
Think emotional intelligence. In NLP, sensory acuity enables the practitioner to stop mind reading and to start having more accuracy in collaborating and determining the criteria, not guessing, what the body language, including facial muscles and tones of voice, is telling them.
Perfect. So first of all, think emotional intelligence. That is sensory acuity. It is being able to use your senses to accurately, acutely determine what is going on in somebody else's head. So what you're using is your visuals, your auditory, everything, your kinesthetics, how you feel when you're feeling a certain way, how you feel when you touch a certain thing or when you talk about a certain texture. You're using all of this to get feedback. So the way that we best are able to learn how to do this is by intentionally having some exercises at our disposal that will help us to determine what somebody else is thinking by giving us a list. Only think these things. Think it intentionally. I'm going to try to guess which of these 8 things you're thinking. Now, these 8 things that we're going to focus on today are the 8 basic human emotions. This is all psychology, okay? So when you're doing micro-expression reading, when you're doing cold reading and sensory acuity, the best way for you to be able to advance in this is to start with basic human emotions. The reason that this is the best place to start is because we have not found a human civilization on the planet that does not exhibit these 8 basic human emotions. Doesn't matter what language they speak, doesn't matter how long that they've been attached to technology, they all exhibit these basic 8 human emotions. So if you can get just the basics down, how much better do you think you're going to get at the little variations of those basics? But how many of you have intentionally sat down with someone and guessed this stuff? Had them exhibit it, demonstrate it, and then you guess. You're feeling that. Nope, I'm not. You're feeling that. Yes, I am. The brain green lights. Green light. Every time you get it right, the brain green lights and starts to learn. That's what that looks like. That's what that looks like. And you start to instinctively be able to tell when you see somebody else, that dude is mad, that guy's happy, that person is jealous of something. What are they looking at? You will start to see things that you have never seen in your entire life, just strangers. And this is cold reading. And the reason that you're not mind reading is because you've developed the skill of sensory acuity. Will you be 100% accurate? No, you will not. Now, you might even be 100% accurate on what you spotted, but incorrect on the motivation behind it. That happens a lot whenever people start getting, come on in, Elizabeth, whenever people start getting really good at reading other people's emotions and sensory acuity, they get really good at reading the emotions, but then they start to mind read the motivation, and that's where you get in a lot of trouble, is whenever you start to try to mind read motivation. So make sure that as you're learning how to spot anger, you're not learning to identify the motive behind it. Okay? So all you want is the raw emotion. All you want to learn is what are they exhibiting. I don't care why. I have no, right now, this is just being able to spot it. It's not right now at all trying to know why. You don't want to know why somebody's happy. You don't want to know why they're sad. You don't want to know why they're afraid. You just want to know they are. That right now is all we're focusing on, is getting the acuity down. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and read this first page off so that everyone knows what we're doing today. Sensory acuity. Think emotional intelligence. In NLP, sensory acuity enables the practitioner, that's me today, but you're all learning this skill so that you can take on the role somewhat of a practitioner. That's somebody who is able to use their senses to accurately determine what someone else is feeling. Okay? So today you will be learning how to take on what I do. Okay? That's why you're developing these skills. That enables the practitioner to stop mind reading and start to have more accuracy in calibrating. That's that word, is calibrating. This is specific to neuro-linguistic programming. The definitions of these 2 words that I've got highlighted are at the very bottom of this, and we'll get to those in just a minute. Calibrating if you want to go to my YouTube channel, I have a video with the president of the YBT, Matt Moore, where I demonstrate calibration on video. So if you want to go back and look that up, you can go to YouTube and type in calibrating James Pesh, and it'll be really the only one that pops up. Okay, so we are determining by criteria, not guessing, what the body language, including facial muscles and tones of voices, is telling them. Obviously, this is crucial in any person-to-person interaction and will enhance any chance of knowing that person deeply or working on a substantial level with them. Sensory acuity can also be referred to as sensory awareness and is a fundamental pillar of NLP. In my opinion, everything about neuro-linguistic programming nestles inside of the vessel of sensory acuity. You have to get this before you get any of it. In my opinion, this is where it all works. If you don't get this part down, you can learn all the other methods, all the other techniques I teach, and you will not be able to get them effectively to work because you'll miss something in the sensory acuity when you're working with another person. You'll break rapport, you'll miss a cue, you'll miss something that's imperative to being able to get this stuff to work, okay? So that's why it's important to first develop your sensory acuity, or at least always be focusing on it, okay? All right, when you are, for any NLP technique to work effectively, the NLP practitioner needs NLP rapport. Does anyone know what rapport is? Go ahead, what's rapport?
It's the, understanding of the other person and being, I guess, on the same page.
Right? If you and I are in rapport, Michelle, what does that mean to you?
That we are talking and bouncing things off of each other.
And we're working right now, right? What if we're not in rapport?
Then we're either off doing something else, or we're angry at one another.
Right. So rapport can be cohesion, it's working, we're working together, and lack of rapport means we ain't working. We're not communicating. It is not happening between us. We are out of rapport. Okay? So as an NLP practitioner, which you can pretty much take on that role today, guys. Anytime I say NLP practitioner, that's you today. Anytime an NLP practitioner breaks rapport, you're no longer influencing that person. No longer do you have any effect on them. So you have to be focused on maintaining rapport. Sensory acuity is the #1 way for you to be able to maintain that rapport. Okay? So then, sensory acuity. Okay, you need NLP rapport and sensory acuity to connect with the client and notice subtle shifts in the physiology, which provides clues on where the client is within the process of change. When you are asking questions to understand the issue the client wants to work with, sensory acuity will enable you to notice when you find the area to begin working on. Mike, how would that apply to sales?
When you start talking about maybe the problems that you solve, and you, even though they don't admit it, you should be able to read from the facial expression something that might have been important or made,
Boom.
put stress on it, because you'll see the stress marker. Or
There you go. You start to see. Now I mentioned something, and all of a sudden they went, You pick up on sensory acuity, you start to notice the things that I'm saying in my pitch that is more fulfilling to people's needs. They're more going, I think I want that, I think I need that. And I can also see which things I say that people are kind of like, I don't care about that. It doesn't do me any good. I don't care about your product. I don't care that it'll make me $1 million next week. I don't need that. Wait, what? That's very important to me. Sensory acuity helps you to determine what's important to them, so that you don't get so obsessed in your product about what's important to me. Because we will lose a lot of people that way if we find what's important about our product to us, but then forget to think about how this could relate to anyone. Sensory acuity helps you in real time be able to determine, what am I saying about my product? What about my product is appealing to this person? And how do I stay focused on those hot trigger buttons? Okay? Now in therapy, which is where NLP is used a lot, this is for therapeutic change. This is for things that are bothering them, problems in their life, substance abuse problems, fear, anxiety, things like that. These are also issues that when you're listening to them talk and watching their physiology, they're changing while they're talking about it. And that whenever you're an NLP practitioner, watching somebody else and being able to determine when they go from fear to joy to anxiety, all these different things is very, very powerful. Because then you can know which things to stay away from and which directions to go toward for the most effective change. Okay? Now, your client will communicate through their physiology, and using sensory acuity, you can respond accordingly, facilitating a journey for the client. That's the whole goal. The essence of sensory acuity is the ability to recognize what is fact and what is perception. That's to the client. Sensory acuity helps you determine what is fact, what's actually happening, and what is their perception. How do they feel like things are happening? Okay? For example, you may look at someone with their arms folded and say they're bored, when in fact they may be cold. Okay? Sensory acuity is the ability to determine the difference. Okay? All right, and sensory acuity is the ability to be able to be acutely aware of the detail in front of you. For example, mouth turned up or down. Okay? Changes in skin tone. You ever see somebody's skin flush all of a sudden while they're talking? Yeah. Where the client is breathing from, or changes in breathing. When you're anxious about something, where do you breathe? High, very high in the chest. Whenever you're relaxed, where do you breathe? Deep into the belly. You can tell the difference in just breathing patterns in the way somebody's breathing. Okay. All right. Making a conclusion that someone is cold would not hold up in court, whereas saying the fact such as they folded their arms would be considered a fact. Do you see the difference between fact and perception? Fact is they folded their arms. Perception is, are they cold or are they bored? Through sensory acuity, we can determine which is which. Okay? Fact is going to be a fact no matter what. Sensory acuity helps us determine perception. Okay? All right. When you master sensory acuity, you are aware of the facts and start to notice changes in the facts at various points of the conversation, interpreting key points and learning about your client at a deeper level. All right, sensory acuity, and this is the actual definition, seeing, hearing, feeling physically and emotionally. Do you know the difference between feeling physically and emotionally? When I rub this, it's kind of got a texture to it, kind of rough. When I feel butterflies in my stomach, same part of the brain generates the same thing in our brain. This feeling is no different than butterflies in my stomach. There is no difference to our brain. They are as real as each other. Okay? Very important to know that. When we're talking about feelings, we are not just talking about texture, and we're not just talking about emotions. We're talking about both at the same time, always. Okay? All right. Smelling and tasting. How many people in here know for a fact you're a smeller? Like, if something smell-wise hits you, you change states. You change the way you feel. Okay, great. I will tell you, gentlemen, females have a tendency to be more olfactory than males. One thing that I tell men, if you are in sales at all, carry mints or gum. Your bad breath will put people off. And make sure that if you do any type of job where you're climbing around, you're sweating anything, deodorant and cologne is a must for men. And I know it doesn't seem like it would be a big deal. It is a must. You
And
will
not too much.
not too much either, but make sure
That's sensory
you're doing something to make sure that you smell pleasant, because it is a big turnoff, and they will not be able to hear you. They'll not be able to do anything if they can't get past that smell. If you need, come on in, man. So it's a critical piece of NLP in your life. It's important for you to be aware of feedback information that indicates the extent to which you are off target in achieving your outcomes. Okay, that's the other thing that sensory acuity does, is it helps you determine how far off you are from where you're trying to get them to. Because what do we want to see whenever we're in rapport? Whenever I know I'm establishing good rapport with Michelle, what do I want to see? If I'm over there sitting there, what do you want to see to make sure that these two people are in rapport? How will you know?
Eye contact.
Eye contact. A lot of nodding. Do you know why nodding is important, guys? Nodding is a subconscious agreement that we are in agreement. It is very powerful when you're in sales, when you're talking to people, to do a lot of this while you're talking. It's a constant subconscious agreement. And then the more you start to see people come along with you, we call that mirroring. When two people are mirroring body language, they are in rapport. You'll notice two people sitting at a dinner conversation. Most of the time, if those two people are having a good time and in rapport, their bodies will look almost identical. If one person's legs crossed, the other person's legs are going to be crossed. If they got hands behind the head, if they got elbows on the table, you look around the room next time, you can almost spot whenever two people are on a date and things are going well and when they're not.